Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Los Angeles Lakers are being sold for the low price of, $10 billion. Also, the Ravens granted Lamar Jackson's wish, signing his old teammate, Jaire Alexander. And did the Pacers have any chance of forcing Game 7 with an injured Tyrese Halliburton?
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Buss family is entering an agreement to sell majority ownership of the LA Lakers to Mark Walter for $10 billion. I always feel like I have to be Dr. Evil when I'm 10 billion. Locked On hosts Brian and Andy Kamenetsky break down the deal.
This is a massive development, not just for the Lakers, obviously, but across the NBA.
This is huge. I mean, the Lakers, this set a record, whether this ends up $10 billion, $12 billion. This was the highest sale of any North American, U.S., however you want to phrase it, sports team in history. Like, this is as big of a sale as we've ever seen. And I imagine unless the Yankees or the Cowboys go on sale anytime soon, this is a record that is going to hold, because those are the only two teams in sports that you could even picture an ownership change happening, because teams like the Warriors, the Celtics, they've all gone through recent ownership changes, and those are not about to change anytime soon. It's a record that it's going to hold for a while. There are massive implications from this sale, whether you're talking about culturally within the team, whether you're talking about different ways that the money will, I think we both feel, positively affect this team moving forward. Some of the things that the Buss family, whether you think they were unwilling, unable, a little bit of both, to dedicate towards this team financially, that is not going to be a problem with Mark Walter and the Guggenheim money that he has, and the stakes that he has, and all these different teams, and just the type of wealth that we are now talking about at the head, that's now financing the Lakers. This is a massive sea change. I mean, to put this in perspective, the Buss family has owned this team since 1979. Like, Dr. Buss bought this team heading into Magic Johnson's rookie season.
Pretty solid return on that initial $67 million investment. That wasn't even just for the Lakers, which in and of itself, to go from 67 million to 10 to 12 billion would be, again, a nice return. That also included the Kings, the Forum, and a ranch. So again, solid purchase for the Buss family there. Time to hire a good capital gains attorney. But I think, the big question here is what.
Can I just have Linda do it?
Maybe. You could. The big question here, though, is how this affects the Lakers and how they're going to operate, because Jeannie Buss is going to continue to be the governor of the team going forward. How long that lasts is something perhaps we'll talk about in tonight's show. The Mark Cuban example in Dallas could be a pretty good template here. So we'll hold that for a second. But for the time being, Jeannie Buss is going to remain the governor of the team and all this. And the Lakers obviously can't suddenly just start handing out gigantic Shohei-style deferred contracts and spending $500 million and all this, because there are rules about how the NBA operates. But I think there are two places that my reaction initially was, you'll see a huge difference. The first is infrastructure, where the Lakers, while they have historically spent on payroll, I don't think they've really, they always spend a lot of money on players, maybe not as much as you want, whatever, but historically they've spent a lot there. They have not spent money as much as you would think a team like the Lakers would in other places.
Should. Forget the would, should.
Assistant coaches, front office, training staff, scouting, all these other things are things that the Lakers have traditionally not spent as much money on. They have had small brain trusts and things like that. Some of that is culture, but the culture can be impacted, whether consciously or unconsciously, by either not wanting to or not being able to spend certain amounts of money. So you can justify, well, we just like a small culture, but really you're at least somewhat affected by your finances. And the second is going to be the way the team is run. Like how the Dodgers have a way of doing things. You know, Andrew Friedman, for example, is not the GM of that team. He's like the president of whatever. And there's a different guy who's a GM, and they have this collaborative structure and architecture that I think that will eventually be replicated with the Lakers, whether that includes Rob Pelinka in the short or long term. Short term, yes. Long term remains to be seen. But it is going to be different. The days 5 years from now, I'll say this, the Lakers will not have like a 3-person basketball ops department.
Well, this is something I will make this prediction right now because I feel confident saying it. If Rob Pelinka is not willing moving forward to be more of a collaborator with more people around him that if they are not at, his true equal level are pretty close, he will not be long for this job. I'm willing to make that prediction right now.
You can stay up to date all year on the LA Lakers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lakers on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up. Jaire Alexander is reuniting with Lamar Jackson. Before we get to that, Vanderbilt thinks they're about to run the state of Tennessee. How cute. The NBA playoffs are almost over. In fact, they could end this very evening. And FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action while you still have a chance. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals and assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You can place that first $5 bet on some NFL playoff dark horses. The Carolina Panthers sit at plus 240 to reach the postseason. The Bears plus 190 and the new look Raiders plus 320. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia doesn't lack for confidence. In a recent interview, Pavia made waves by openly dismissing the Big Ten Conference as a whole, while also taking a shot at in-state rival Tennessee. The team Vandy hasn't beaten in 7 years.
So, Diego Pavia, man, he's creating quite the shockwaves through college football, through the SEC, through the state of Tennessee. Here, there, and everywhere. Probably some shockwaves with some other things that he said, and then just some really good insight. I will say this, like I said, the guy's bold, man. He will say whatever comes to his mind. He just doesn't care. He's unfiltered, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And that's the way it's going to be with Diego Pavia. And I respect him for that. Like, I may not, you may not like everything he says. I may not like everything he says. Or the way he says it, but the fact that he is unafraid to speak his mind and to say it, I respect that. But and in order to respect that, I don't have to love everything he says. But this statement, being an SEC guy, it fires me up, right? Well, he already said he's going to run the state of Tennessee, which I live in Nashville, so I'm cool with that.
Over on the diamond, the Phillies tried to avoid a series loss to the Marlins.
So many takeaways from the Phillies' 4-2 win over the Miami Marlins Wednesday night. First and foremost, Ranger Suarez is just incredible. You're talking about 8 straight starts where he's gone at least 6 innings, no more than 3 runs, at least quality starts in every start but his first one of the season. And now 3 straight starts for Ranger Suarez where he's tossed 7 innings, allowing no more than 2 runs. That's pretty good as well. The best part about watching him is being able to keep so many batters time and time again just fooled, off balance, using his curveball just tremendously and changing the eye level of these hitters time and time again that just leaves them fishing. Also, Bryson Stott comes away with a 3-run home run. Big hit for Bryson Stott. You love to see that for him. And then, of course, the return of Nick Castellanos. And, of course, Nick Castellanos made the game-saving catch against the wall in right field. to help the Phillies secure their 4-2 win. They'll look to take 3 of 4 against the Marlins.
And the sliding Mets look to get back on track against the Braves.
If it can go wrong, it is going wrong for the New York Mets as they drop their 5th game in a row, getting shut out by the Atlanta Braves. Chris Sale, 8 2/3 scoreless as the Mets fall 5-0. The Mets can't hit right now. Tonight, Soto, Lindor, Alonso combined to go 0 for 12 with 5 strikeouts. They can't get good quality starting pitching. Paul Blackburn only able to give them 3 2/3, gave up a 3 spot in the first, and they're not playing fundamental baseball. Luis Torrens in there after a miscue by Francisco Alvarez the night before. He makes a miscue of his own, using his mask to stop a ball. That directly leads to a run, sets up a sac fly for another run. Pass ball, wild pitch, leads to a 3rd run. 3 of the 5 runs that the Braves scored tonight can be directly linked to a miscue behind the plate tonight. The Mets just can't get out of their own way. They might be pressing. They might just be getting a string of bad luck, not playing well, having injuries, whatever it is. The Mets have to find their way out of this soon, or they run the risk of just inviting Philadelphia and Atlanta back into the NL East race.
Former All-Pro cornerback Jaire Alexander is returning to his Louisville roots, at least joining Lamar Jackson as a Baltimore Raven. Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens joins me now. And Kevin, this is a 1-year deal, $4 million with another $2 million in incentives that Jaire Alexander can earn. That seems like a steal for a former All-Pro corner. By the way, not that long ago that he was an All-Pro, just can't stay on the field. What does this do for Baltimore?
Oh, it helps them out a lot. The Ravens didn't need Jaire Alexander. They weren't desperate for a corner. But as their former general manager, Ozzie Newsome, coined, you can never have enough corners. We've seen Ravens seasons derailed with corner injury after corner injury. We've seen other teams have that same problem. And you bring in Jaire Alexander in a secondary that already has Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins. You also have Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks. That's 5 former first-round picks in your starting secondary, which is unbelievable. And you mentioned it, Jaire can't stay on the field, at least the past 2 seasons. He's only played in 7 games in each of the last 2 years. So you're hoping at least that maybe not relying on him to be the bona fide number 1 corner on this team can help them out. You know, with Marlon and Nate and Jaire, it gives them a lot of versatility as well, because with Baltimore, they don't have to play their base defense a ton. You can play big nickel with Kyle Hamilton down in the slot, or you can move Marlon into the slot as well, have Jaire and Nate Wiggins on the outside. You also have other depth pieces like Chidobe Awuzie, TJ Tampa, and others. So they didn't need Jaire, but he certainly helps considering the talent that he is.
So that, I think, brings me to an important question here. Where does Ja fit in all of this? Because they used, as you mentioned, Nate Wiggins is a former first-round pick. We know the quality of player that Marlon Humphrey is and can be. So where does he slot in all this? Because a 1-year, $4 million deal does not scream he's a no-doubt starter on our team. That's for sure.
I think it helps because with Jaire, and it's almost something I've talked about this with a lot of vets, and I think DeAndre Hopkins is another example where with them not relying on these vets to be the number 1 at their positions, and you have guys that you can put in front of them, I think that will help, hopefully at least, their availability by maybe not having Jaire play a full complement of snaps. You want to get to as close as you can to it as possible, but I think we'll probably see a lot more Marlon in the slot this season. They don't have a pure slot guy this year like they've had Arthur Millette in the past, Tavon Young, like guys who just sit in the slot and you forget about it. But we've seen Marlon play extremely high-level football in the slot. Kyle Hamilton does the same thing, kind of those big nickel packages I was talking about. You know, Jaire's not the biggest corner in the world, so you have to wonder and run defense. For the Ravens are a very physical secondary. They like their big physical corners, and they went away from that a little bit when they took Nate Wiggins, who was very slight of frame, and Jaire being under 6 foot and not having the biggest frame in the world. I'm curious to see where they utilize him in that regard, but we know he's a shutdown guy when he's on. And for me, the Ravens have talked so much, Zach Orr, Chuck Pagano, John Harbaugh, about the positionless aspect of their defense, moving guys all around. They also love having 3 outside corners that can play on the outside. They've had that with Marcus Peters, Jimmy Smith, and Marlon Humphrey. Even further back than that, Brandon Carr, Jimmy Smith, Marlon Humphrey. They like to rotate these guys in, keep them fresh, keep them healthy. And that's the name of the game, really, when it comes to winning a championship for a lot of these teams. How healthy can you be when you get to February? And for Jaire with the injuries, obviously you got to ask that question with his history.
Yeah, the attrition battle is always going to be part of it. Baltimore, I mean, how many times have you been on Locked On Sports Today, Kevin, talking about another Ravens injury? It was a running bit a year or two ago. It was like every time you were on, can we talk about something? Can they win a game that we can talk about? Because it was all the injuries, and it was major injuries, Achilles injuries, season-ending injuries. I mean, it never stopped. Baltimore, as they sit here, I think this is a good time to ask this question because this is a move that is being pegged as well. Jaire Alexander wants to go somewhere else other than Green Bay where he can win a championship. Can Ja, if he's healthy, be the missing piece? And I guess the better question would be, to what degree does he need to stay healthy? What kind of contribution does he have to make to be the missing piece? Because I think expecting him to play 17 games and a full postseason at this point is probably a fool's errand.
Sure. I think you're probably correct. And, you can talk about other great players who have been injured. I mean, I talked about the potential of Julio Jones coming to Baltimore for like 4 years because that's all Ravens fans wanted. And my mindset is the same that it kind of is with Jaire is you have to anticipate there's going to be a couple missed games. And the way that works is you have to have the depth either in front or behind of that player to be able to sustain that loss. And so I think to me, they didn't need Jaire to win a Super Bowl. And that's the mindset I'll continue to have. But the fact that he is there, even if a guy like Marlon or Nate Wiggins goes down, the fact that you can just plug in an all-pro guy and say, hey, Jaire can hold it down in a bigger role for a couple of games, that's a really valuable asset to have, on top of the fact that you do have other vets. So to me, with Chidobe Awuzie, TJ Tampa, and some of those other depth pieces, they're not all pros. They don't have the resume that Jaire Alexander has. So the fact that for, the division that you're in, Cincinnati they re-signed Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. The Steelers bring in DK Metcalf. I guess the Browns have receivers as well, a receiver or two. You need to be able to cover in this league. And for Baltimore, who struggled immensely in the first half of last season with their pass defense, I think they saw that and they said, never again. Jaire can have an impact for this team, but he's not going to be relied upon to be the face of that secondary. He's a piece in that secondary, which I think is best case scenario for both sides.
Stay up to date all year on the Baltimore Ravens by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Ravens on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, with Halliburton hurt, the Thunder might be walking away with the NBA title in Game 6. The Indiana Pacers are trying to prepare for Game 6 of the NBA Finals with star Tyrese Halliburton injured, but expected to play at least for now. Locked On Pacers host Tony East and Locked On Thunder host Rylan Stiles discuss whether or not Indiana really has a chance tonight.
Let's wrap this up, Rylan, today. This is the big question. This is the first time the Pacers have faced elimination this playoffs. Last year, they played the Knicks. They were down 3-2. They won at home. Then they crushed the Knicks in MSG, famously setting the playoff record for shooting percentage into Game 7. You just never know with this stuff. Tyrese Halliburton's injury certainly makes the you never know a little harder to say. However, it's the finals. As I've said the whole time, you never know how these moments are going to shake guys, what's going to happen along the way. Perhaps the Pacers will be the team that shrinks in the moment. They certainly did not look like themselves to start Game 5. I bring this up to say, can this get back to OKC? Because a Game 7 in the finals, you really, really never know what's going to happen.
It absolutely can. And I know that Halliburton's injury puts a damper on Game 6, but the reality of the situation is the Pacers have been the best three-point shooting team in the NBA in this playoffs, and the Thunder have been the 13th of 16 playoff teams. They have not been a good three-point shooting team. They've not shot the ball well on the road. And Indiana, it just takes one shot variance game to push us to a Game 7, in which you need a second shot variance game to help you win Game 7. But in the sense of just getting to the Game 7, could you see a world where this is a special thing about both fan bases. The deeply rooted understanding of basketball from Pacers fans and Thunder fans, where it's when the Thunder were on the wrong side of a run yesterday, the fan base kind of encouraged them back and kind of didn't show, the sense of worry that you would feel in that moment. And but the Pacers fans,
you know what I'll give you? It felt different than Game 1, where in Game 1 there was some intensity, and I think the fact that the Thunder closed out Game 4 made the crowd more confident, because I didn't feel that same intensity in the building for Game 5.
Yeah, and it's in Pacers fans, they're going to be rowdy tomorrow because they understand that this team needs them to help propel whatever is out there, whether it's Halliburton or not, or if Halliburton's gutting it out or not, whatever happens, the fan base is behind them. This is the opportunity that no Thunder player has been in except for Alex Caruso, which was in the bubble. So it's like even Caruso, was he really ever in a closeout finals game in the sense of the weight of it, of like the weight of like being on the road, trying to win this closeout game? We've seen the Thunder in this situation before of like they go up 3-2 in game 5, don't have their best stuff in game 6, including J-Dub, who had a 6-point game in game 6 on the road in Denver before coming back and crushing Denver in game 7, to where it's just like there's certainly a chance. Now, is there a great chance? That is dependent on Therese Halliburton and what he can actually give, and we just don't know that. So I hate to cop out, but if you promised me that Therese Halliburton was 70% or better, which, again, right now seems doom and gloom. But if he was 70% or better, then yeah, I would say that the Pacers have a really good chance to win game 6 and have the shots fall in their direction. I do wonder what TJ looks like for the length of a game instead of just like a spark plug option, because clearly he's going to have to play a bigger role regardless of if Halliburton starts or not. TJ's going to have to play a bigger role and carry more of an offensive load that you're more so expecting if you're Oklahoma City. But in the sense of, can they do it? Yes. Like this series is not done. This Indiana team is not done. And you can bury Indiana at your own peril because they've been able to spit in the face of all the detractors all season long.
Yeah, if they get outshot from 3, like in game 2 and game 5, it's over, right? They just can't have that happen. They have to have the home court role player 3-point bump. Their bench needs to be spectacular, like it was in game 3 of this series. I think if Halliburton doesn't play, their chances go way down. But I also saw Andrew Nembhard get the Pacers to crunch time with leads against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I think the Thunder are better defense than that Celtics team had last year, even though that Celtics defense was awesome. But I saw them do it. I was there. I watched it. They were quite good in those games, even though they won none of them. So that is where they'll miss Halliburton a lot. Is if crunch time comes, that will be quite the change. But yeah, I people have been too doomy, I think, about their chances with him hobbled. I still think that the Thunder would be the favorites, especially with him not at 100%. But the Pacers every game of the playoffs, and they've won 14 of them. Like, absolutely not an over. Get it back to OKC, and it's so easy to make that speech if you're a coach or if you're a fan talking to yourself. Like, get it to a game 7, and you just never know. Right? You just don't know what a game 7 will feel like for anyone involved. The Thunder have played a game 7 this year and won it. The Pacers played a game 7 last year and won it. They won it on the road. The Thunder won it at home. Like, they've gone through that. It's the finals, man. Like, it's just a huge stage. It's super loud. There's media all the time. You just never know. That's the spiel they've got to give themselves. Get to game 7. Can they do it? We will see. If the Pacers win, you will hear from Rylan and I one more time.
And finally, the Panthers may have gone back-to-back, but the Stanley Cup went bump and dent. Following Florida's title-clinching win over Edmonton, the team celebrated like champs, and the Cup has the bruises to prove it. The bowl is cracked, the base dented, and somehow, somewhere, Lord Stanley is probably smiling. This isn't the first time the 131-year-old trophy has taken a hit, though. It's been dropped, drowned, and dinged more time than anyone can count or than anyone would like to admit. The Hall of Fame's Cup keepers say it'll be patched up in time for Sunday's parade. Until then, let's just say it's carrying the weight of history and probably a slight hangover. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, is it time for the NBA to crown the Thunder as champions? Well, they get to decide that. So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.